Hello, and welcome to the Brunswick County Board of Elections Candidate Committee Overview. In this video, we'll walk through key steps involved in organizing and registering your candidate committee and what's required when it comes time to file your campaign finance reports. Whether you're new to campaign finance or just need a refresher, this overview will help you start off on the right foot. Let's dive in. In this section, we'll cover two of the most common terms in campaign finance: contributions and expenditures. Let's begin with contributions. A contribution is anything of value given to a candidate, political committee, or party to support or oppose a candidate. This can include money or in-kind non-monetary contributions like donated goods or services. In short, contributions represent incoming support to a campaign. Before opening a campaign bank account, receiving donations, or spending funds, you must understand the legal requirements under North Carolina law. A candidate and their spouse may contribute unlimited amounts to the campaign. Some prohibited contributions include cash contributions over $50 per person per day. Joint contributions. For example, if a couple gives you a check, it cannot be from Mr. and Mrs. Doe. It must be from either Mr. Doe or Mrs. Doe. Anonymous contributions. Contributions from businesses. This includes your own business or businesses owned by friends or supporters. If you receive a business's goods or services, you must pay what anyone else would pay. Contributions over the maximum limit. This limit is updated by the North Carolina State Board of Elections, or NCSBE, every odd-numbered year, so be sure to check the current limit on the NCSBE website or in the NCSBE Campaign Finance Manual. All contributions are regulated by North Carolina state law, and violations can result in civil or criminal penalties. So be sure to review the current NCSBE Campaign Finance Manual if you have questions about accepting campaign funds. Now let's move on to expenditures. An expenditure is any amount of money or anything of value spent by a candidate or committee to support or oppose a candidate as permitted by North Carolina General Statute 163-278, 16b. This includes purchases, goods or services provided, and any financial obligation taken on by the campaign. Put simply, expenditures are outgoing campaign spending, and if your committee is required to submit disclosure reports, every dollar spent must be reported. North Carolina law strictly limits what campaign funds can be used for, and violations can result in civil or criminal penalties. So be sure to review the current NCSBE Campaign Finance Manual if you have questions about spending your campaign funds. Let's wrap up with a few key takeaways to remember about contributions and expenditures. First, think of contributions as incoming support. This can be money or donated goods or services, anything of monetary value. Expenditures, on the other hand, are outgoing spending, purchases, goods or services provided, or financial obligations made by the campaign. North Carolina campaign finance law sets strict rules about who can contribute, how much they can give, and how campaign money can be used. Every contribution and every expenditure must be fully and properly disclosed. Always err on the side of caution and double check before accepting or spending campaign funds. In North Carolina, every candidate for elected office must appoint a treasurer, and that treasurer must be a North Carolina resident. Now, as a candidate, you can choose to serve as your own treasurer, or you can appoint someone else to take on the role. Just one key rule: your spouse cannot serve as your treasurer. The treasurer, whether it's you or someone you appoint, is responsible for understanding campaign finance rules, including limits and prohibitions on contributions. Some of the core duties include maintaining accurate financial records, following all campaign finance rules and regulations, filing timely disclosure reports, and notifying our office of any changes to your committee. It's a big job, so make sure you or whoever you appoint are prepared for the tasks ahead. Once appointed, there is an important next step to prepare for the role of treasurer. You or whoever you chose must receive mandatory compliance training from the NC State Board of Elections within 3 months of being appointed, and again once every 4 years, as long as the committee is active. Reports certified and submitted by a treasurer that has not received training within the 3-month window are subject to penalties. To sign up for training, treasurers must register on the State Board's website. If you are seeking elected office in North Carolina, you're considered to have a candidate committee, even if it's just you, the candidate. And a committee of one is still subject to the same rules as larger candidate committees. So, you've decided to run for office and are considered to have a committee. The next step is to determine the date you officially organized your committee, so you know when you need to register with the County Board of Elections. This date is based on when your committee's first activity occurred. The North Carolina State Board of Elections defines a committee's first activity as any of the following key actions, whichever comes first: receiving money or anything of value for your campaign, spending money to support your run, giving someone permission to raise or spend money on your behalf, filing for office, which includes submitting your notice of candidacy, or submitting a statement of organization for your committee. Once you take the first of any of these actions, you have 10 calendar days to complete your committee's registration with the County Board of Elections. Let's look at an example of that timeline. Say you accept money from a friend in support of your campaign on August 5th. You now have until August 15th to register your committee and file all appropriate paperwork with the Board of Elections. That 10-day deadline is critical, so it's important to know the date of your first activity and register your committee before your campaign gets underway. When it comes time to register your committee, the specific paperwork you'll file depends on one key question. Will you raise or spend more than $1,000 during your election cycle? Before we dive in, let's quickly define what an election cycle is. For candidate committees, an election cycle is the period from January 1st after an election for a particular office until December 31st after the election for the next term of the same office. Here's an example. Say you're running for a 4-year Board of Education seat in 2028. The last election for that seat was November 5th, 2024. So your election cycle would be from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028. Now, back to our original question. Will you raise or spend more than $1,000 during your election cycle? If you expect to raise or spend more than $1,000, you'll need to register your committee over a threshold. That means filing an organizational disclosure report within 10 calendar days of your first financial activity. This report includes any money you've raised or spent up to that point. We'll talk more about what goes in that report later. After that, your committee must continue to file regular disclosure reports based on your reporting schedule. We'll also talk about reporting schedules later in this video. If you don't expect to raise or spend more than $1,000 during your campaign, including your own personal funds, you may qualify to file under threshold, but only if you're running for county or municipal office. In that case, you'll complete a certification of threshold, Form CRO 3600, certifying you will neither receive nor expend more than $1,000 during the current election cycle. This declaration can only be made when initially filing for office and at the beginning of an election cycle. Once that's filed, you're exempt from filing disclosure reports, but you still need to maintain detailed internal records of all contributions and expenditures. So what happens if you cross the $1,000 threshold? If your campaign goes over $1,000, you have 10 calendar days to file a new certification of threshold, withdrawing your committee's under threshold status, and your next report due would have to disclose all transactions from the date of your committee's organization through that next report's due date. From that point forward, you would continue reporting through the rest of the election cycle, even if you stopped spending. And remember, your threshold status is only valid for one election cycle. To stay under threshold, you'll need to file a new certification of threshold on January 1st following the election. Now, it's important to note that while you can go from under threshold to over threshold during an election cycle, you cannot change from over threshold to under threshold until the start of a new election cycle, and only then if your campaign bank account balance is less than $1,000. No matter if your committee is filing over or under the $1,000 threshold, there are a few essential forms you'll need to complete to register. First up is Form CRO 2100A, the Statement of Organization for candidate committees. This form is required by all candidate committees and must be filled out in its entirety. First, you will mark that the form is either new or amended. The first time you fill this form out, you will check New. But if your committee's information changes at any time, you must submit an amended CRO 2100A. Then you'll move to Section 1, which asks for committee information, including your committee's name and contact information. Each committee must select a unique name not currently used by active or inactive committees in North Carolina. In this example, we have Committee to Elect Jane Smith. Some common variations are Vote Jane Smith for Commissioner and Jane Smith for Town Council. Section 2 asks for candidate information, including name, contact information, party affiliation, nonpartisan for municipal candidates, office sought, election year, your jurisdiction, and a place to mark if you'd like to be CC'd on report notices emailed to your treasurer. Section 3 asks for treasurer information, including name, contact information, and a place to mark if you'd like report notices emailed. This is the contact we will use to communicate with your committee. Section 4 asks for assistant treasurer information. If you don't have an assistant treasurer, you can put none in box A. Section 5 asks for custodian of books information. If you don't have a custodian of books, you can put none in box A. Section 6 asks for your committee's bank account information. If you will be receiving contributions, you must open a campaign bank account. So here you would disclose your bank's name, your chosen account code, and the type of account. Any transaction you make that is affiliated with your committee bank account must be reported with your account code, because your bank account number is confidential. The account code is created by you and can be any combination of letters and numbers, but it should be easy to remember. For example, you might use a single number, you might use your initials, or your address number, or your area code. If you plan to only spend personal funds on your campaign, you can put self-funded in box A. The last section requires both the treasurer and the candidate to sign and certify that the form is complete, true, and correct. The next required form is Form CRO 3500, the Certification of Financial Account Information. This form is confidential and, once submitted, is kept in a secured location by the County Board of Elections. First, you'll provide your committee's information, then your campaign bank account information, including the account code you created earlier. Then you'll sign and date that section to complete the certification. Or, if you plan to use only personal funds and won't be opening a campaign account, fill out your committee information, then skip down to the section for candidate committees only. Check the box to certify you will only spend your own funds, and sign and date that section to complete the form. Please be aware that if a supporter gives you money after you certify that you will only be using personal funds, you are required to open a committee bank account and must submit a new CRO 3500 and an amended CRO 2100A, disclosing that account information. There is one more registration form that is optional but strongly encouraged. Form CRO 3900, the candidate designation of committee funds. This form allows a candidate to designate how their committee's funds are dispersed if they pass away, using the allowable methods outlined in North Carolina General Statute, Section 163-278, 16b-A. Remember, all required and optional forms and their instructions are available on the NCSBE's website. If your campaign is going to be over threshold, remember, there's one more important step in the registration process: filing an organizational disclosure report. Earlier, we learned the key actions that count as your committee's first activity: receiving money or anything of value for your campaign, spending money to support your run, giving someone permission to raise or spend money on your behalf, filing your notice of candidacy, or completing your committee's statement of organization. The organizational disclosure report captures any contributions or expenditures from your committee's first activity to the date you complete the report and must be submitted within 10 calendar days of that first activity. The types of forms included in this report depend on the transactions that took place within those 10 calendar days. You'll need to know the specific date of your first activity, as it's considered the reporting period's start date for this report. You must file your report with the County Board of Elections no later than 10 calendar days after that start date. If the 10th calendar day falls on a weekend and you are mailing the report, be sure it is postmarked on the 10th day. If you are hand delivering the report, you can submit it on the Monday after. If you're submitting your report sooner than the 10th calendar day, the date you submit your report is the period end date. Your next report's period start date will begin the day after. Missing the 10-day deadline could result in fines being issued by the NCSBE, so don't wait. Need help putting your report together? Check out our YouTube video, Organizational Report Overview. We walk you through the whole process step by step. As we learned earlier, over-threshold committees must file regular disclosure reports. So let's talk a little bit about what reporting will look like. First, you need to decide how your committee will file reports. There are two options for filing methods. Option 1 is to file electronically using free NCSBE reporting software. Electronic filing is optional for most committees, but it is required for some. A candidate committee must file reports electronically if the total amount of contributions, loans, or spending during an election cycle adds up to more than $10,000. If a candidate believes they might exceed $10,000, it may be easier to file electronically from the start. Committees giving to statewide campaigns may have to file electronically if they pass certain limits. Check the NCSBE Campaign Finance Manual for more details. Option 2 is to file paper reports and submit them by mail or hand deliver them to the County Board of Elections. Next, let's look at report contents. Each disclosure report must include Form CRO 1000, the disclosure report cover. This form serves as the cover sheet for all disclosure reports and should be the first form completed when creating a disclosure report. This applies to report amendments as well. Each report or amended report must also include Form CRO 1100, the detailed summary. This form gives a simple summary of all the financial activity during the reporting period, as well as the total amount of money raised and spent during the current election cycle. And it tells you which types of forms should be used in the report, based on the types of transactions that took place. Let's look at some commonly used reporting forms. First, we have Form CRO 1210, Contributions from Individuals. This is where you'll report individual contributions, as well as in-kind, non-monetary contributions like donated goods or services. Next, we have Form CRO 1310, Disbursements. This is where you'll report two of the most common types of expenditures made by the committee: operating expenses and contributions to candidates or political committees. Remember to use a separate disbursements form for each type of disbursement. Then we have Form CRO 1510, In-Kind Contributions. This is where you'll report all in-kind, non-monetary contributions. That's right. You must report all in-kind contributions on two different forms. Once on a contributions reporting form, like the CRO 1210 or CRO 1205, and once on an in-kind contributions form, CRO 1510. This shows the money going into the committee, then going out, and not affecting the cash on hand at end balance disclosed on line 19 of your detailed summary, as your cash on hand at end balance should match your bank balance. If you're running for office, your reporting schedule depends on the type of office you're seeking: state, county, or municipal. For state and county offices, you'll file disclosure reports according to North Carolina General Statute 163-278.9. For municipal offices, it's a little different. Brunswick County uses the nonpartisan plurality method for municipal elections. That means Brunswick County municipal candidates file reports according to NC General Statute 163-278-40E. You can always find the most current reporting schedules on the NCSBE's website on their Reporting Schedules page, or on the Brunswick County Board of Elections website on our Campaign Finance Requirements page. When it comes to understanding campaign finance, you're not alone. There are some great resources to help candidate committees stay informed and compliant. The NC State Board of Elections website is your go-to for campaign finance resources like reporting schedules and forms, videos, treasurer training, the Campaign Finance Manual, and electronic filing tools. Our Brunswick County Board of Elections website offers a web page with FAQs, how-to videos, frequently used reporting forms, and the option to request one-on-one appointments for support during the reporting process. Additionally, you can search the North Carolina General Assembly site for relevant general statutes. Thank you for watching. We hope this video was informative and helpful, and we're excited to support you in your campaign journey.